Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I would like to show you how to crochet this baby hoodie. As you can see, the pattern looks really interesting. It is super soft, probably the softest one I have ever made. I really enjoy just touching it. So this is technically just half double crocheted into different loops. I will show you all of that later on once we start on it. Now I would like to show you how they look. Okay, so this is a size 0 to 3 months in color cream, and it is really cute. It is quite warm. The pattern is quite thick, as you can see right here, and very stretchy and very soft. So we have a rollback hood, rollback sleeves. You can put in a little elastic if you would like at the end of the sleeves. I have it on this hoodie, but this is you don't have to do this. I will show you the whole thing. Okay, so this is size 0 to 3 months, and I will give you charts that you can make this hoodie for up to 1 year. So 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12 months. Okay, so I'll show you my next one. It is one size bigger. This is a 3 to 6 months. Exactly the same, as you can see, the same pattern. It kind of makes it look a little bit different, I think, the darker color, but I enjoyed making this one. Very nice. Okay, so 3 to 6 months, and I have got another one to show you. I have a 9 to 12 months in color blue, as you can see, like that. So it is kind of a hoodie, a little jacket. It would be, I think it would be fantastic for spring when it is not very cold anymore, because it is quite thick, not thick enough to walk around in winter, but I would say spring is perfect for this one. Okay, so if you would like to make one of those with me, let's go on and have a look at what we're going to need for this project. So to make this hoodie, we are going to need 3 or 4 buttons. I have got 3 this time. I will be making a size 6 to 9 months, and I think that 3 will be perfect. I have used 4 for 9 to 12 months. Again, you're gonna have to look and see how many rows you get, so you can see if you can fit in the 4th button if you want to. Then we're going to need a needle to hide the tails, scissors, a measuring tape, very important. My one is centimeters, as is my size chart. Then we're gonna need a bunch of stitch markers. I have 8, so 8, 9, whatever you have with you is going to be absolutely fine. You're gonna need a minimum of 4 of them. A hook that matches your yarn. So I've got this 4mm hook, and it matches the weight of my yarn, which is double knit or DK. In other words, lightweight number free yarn. Any kind that you can get your hands on that you like is going to be fine, as long as it is lightweight number free. So I've got this classic DK from Ice Yarns, and it is 100% acrylic. There is approximately 285 meters in a 100-gram skein. So I've got 2 of these. Now, how much yarn you're going to need? So for sizes up to 9 months, so 0 to 3, 3 to 6, 6 to 9 months, 2 skeins of 100 grams is going to be enough. Now about the 9 to 12 months, the one that I have made, I have used up 2 full skeins, and I kind of ran out of it a little bit, not too much. I only needed some extra to do the edging around, just to go around and clean up the edges. So it wasn't too much that I was missing, but again, I did have to use to take some from another skein. So choose your yarn, grab your hook, and we will get started on the hoodie. To begin, grab your hook, 4 stitch markers, your measuring tape, and your yarn. Make a slip knot. Now we are going to figure out which of these squares is going to be for who? Okay, so at this side right here, so you can see the ages 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6, 6 to 9, and 9 to 12 months. These are the sizes. And on the other side is the length of our starting chain. Now I only have 2 squares, so we're gonna have to see which number of chains is the closest one to the length that we need. I will be making a size 6 to 9 months, and should be about 38 centimeters long. So you see this big number right here? So this is how much we are going to chain, and then we will measure. If we are very close to the length that we need, we're gonna stick to this square. Now if this is too short, you have another choice of 59 chains, and if that fits, we're going to stick to that. Now the way that when I was creating this pattern, it kind of always works out for me that 51 chains is perfect for 0 to 3 months and 3 to 6 months, and 59 chains is perfect for 6 to 9 months and 9 to 12 months. Now you still need to measure just in case it doesn't, you don't get to that length, because you might be using different yarn. Okay, anyways, I will show you now how to measure. So first of all, we're gonna chain 51. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and keep going until you have 51 chains. So I have crocheted 51 chains, this number right here. Now I'm going to measure if this is approximately 38 centimeters in length that I need. I'm gonna place my first chain at the very beginning, and then I'm just going to give it a tiny little pull. So as you can see, I'm at approximately 30, 34, 35 centimeters. So like I said, this would be perfect for these two smaller sizes. Now I'm a little short to 38, so I'm gonna go for 59 chains. So I'm just gonna add 8 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now I have 59 chains, and I'm gonna measure this, and as you can see, if I give it a tiny little pull, I'm right there at 38, 39 centimeters. So this is perfect for my age, and again, this will work just fine for the 9 to 12 months, as you can see. Now whichever number of chains you have picked up, you will be looking at the numbers at the square. Okay, so I have 59 chains, so I will be looking at the numbers on this square. If you got 51 chains, you look at the square with 51 chains. Now once we get the length of the chains, we have to add 7 chains. Okay, so this is for both of them exactly the same, so extra 7 chains. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We're going to start with row 1, and it is a very simple row. We are going to yarn over, skip the very first chain, and starting from the second chain from the hook, we're gonna make 1 half double crochet into each stitch to the end of the chain. So half double crochet into the next one, and you just keep going to the very end of your chain. So just like that, keep going with half double crochets. And so I have made 1 half double crochet into each chain. Now grab your stitch markers, and we are going to mark those stitches where our corners are going to be in the next row. This will make it easier for us because we will not have to count our stitches once we start doing the pattern. Okay, so you look at your square. If you had 51 chains and then plus 7, I had 59 plus 7, so I'm gonna look at these numbers on this square. Okay, so first of all, we look at this number on the side, and I have 11. That means I'm gonna count 11 stitches back. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. This one is 11, and I mark the next stitch, so it would be stitch number 12. Or in other words, you have to have this number of stitches before your stitch marker. So you do not count that marked stitch. This is a corner stitch. I have 11 before the stitch marker. Next, again, we're going to look at the number on the side. I have 11 again. You might have 9. I have 11. So I'm not counting the stitch marker, the stitch that is marked. I'm starting at the next one and I count 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And I mark the next stitch, or stitch number 12 again. And if I count back, I'm gonna have 11 stitches in between the two stitch markers. Next, we have the back right here. So I have to count 17 stitches, or 15 if you have this square. So again, I'm not counting that stitch that is marked, and I count 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and I mark the next stitch. Again, I have 17 stitches in between these two markers. Now one more stitch marker left. So this number right here at the other side, another sleeve, I have 11 stitches. So again, I start from the next stitch that is not marked. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I mark the next stitch. And if I have counted everything correctly, I should have 11 stitches left after the last stitch marker. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and 11. That very last stitch might be a little bit small, but it's definitely there. Okay, so here we go. If this was confusing, I'm just gonna quickly say that you should have these numbers of stitches in between excuse me, the stitch markers. So everyone, so I have 11, 11, 17, 11, 11. If you're making this, you should have 10, 9, 15, 9, and 10. Okay, so once we have this marked, let's get started on our first row of the pattern. Okay, so all of our rows are going to start exactly the same for everybody. Okay, so you're going to chain 1 and you are going to turn your work. Make a half double crochet into the very first stitch, so this one right here. Now after this stitch we are going to start the pattern. Just let me show you quickly what are we going to do. So you should be familiar with the front loop and back loop. Okay, so if you look at those stitches, at any of them, they have the front loop that is closer to you and the back loop that is further away, okay, or at the back. Now half double crochets are interesting stitches which actually have 3 loops if you look at it. So they have the back loop, the front loop, and the bottom loop right here. So you can see this kind of line going underneath, and they have a loop right there as well. So when we're going to make this pattern, one stitch is going to go into the bottom loop right here, and if you turn, you still have the full stitch behind it, so another front loop and back loop. And then the next stitch, into the next stitch, you're going to use the back loop only one wall of that stitch. And then you're gonna go again into the bottom loop and then into the back loop, bottom, back, and you'll keep going until you get to your stitch marker. I'm gonna show you right now. Okay, you can see if I can get it a little closer. Okay, so once you have your first half double crochet, you make it into a full stitch. Okay, after that you're gonna yarn over and you will start from the bottom loop. So a bottom loop is right here. Go from underneath it, from under up with your hook, catch your yarn, pull it out, you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over and pull through all 3 loops. So make a half double crochet. Now you're gonna skip that stitch. There's a full stitch behind it, you skip it, you don't want to use it twice, okay? You find your next one, make sure you skip it, and go into the back loop only and make a half double crochet. Yarn over, again you skip that, you make sure that you skip the other loops from that stitch that you have just made. Find you another one and go into the bottom loop. Make a half double crochet. Next stitch in the back loop. Again, bottom loop. Next stitch, back loop. Bottom. And back. And bottom. And if you look right now, okay, so I have 1 stitch left. This is important, okay? You have to remember which loop you crochet in just before the stitch marker. So I end up with a back loop, half double crochet, okay? So I crocheted into the back loop. Now this means that all those stitches right before the stitch marker and the next stitch after each stitch marker are going to have to be in the back loop, okay? So if you had your last stitch into the bottom loop, it's exactly the same for you. Once you make a corner in that stitch marker where the stitch marker is going to be, the next stitch is going to be at the bottom loop again. Then you keep going with the pattern and you're gonna have a bottom loop, make your corner, and start with a bottom loop again. I'm going to show you that, okay? The most important thing is that you remember what kind of half double crochet, which loop you made it into. Okay, so I have the back loop. I'm going to take the stitch marker out and just make 3 half double crochets into a full stitch like you would usually do. So 3 half double crochets. 1, 2, and 3. Take a stitch marker and mark your second stitch from the hook. The loop on the hook does not count as a stitch, so this is 1 and this is 2. Mark that. That is going to be a corner in our next row. Now once you make your corner, excuse me, I'm starting to lose my voice. Remember what stitch you had here. So I had a half double crochet into the back loop. So again, I start into the back loop. And then the bottom loop, back loop, and you keep going, switching these loops up with your half double crochets until you get to your stitch marker. And again, once you get to your stitch marker, your last stitch should be the same. So I have the back loop like right here, okay? So you're gonna have all the same stitches before and after the corner, before, after, all the way, okay? This is just so that the pattern looks nice and even everywhere. Okay, stitch marker out, 3 half double crochets into a full stitch as usual for the corner. Mark your second stitch from the hook, first stitch, second stitch marker in. Again, after the stitch marker, I start with the same stitch as right here, so the back loop for me. Back loop, bottom, back, bottom, and keep going until you come to your next stitch marker. And again, our next stitch marker, I have my half double crochet in the back loop. This is great for checking. If you always end up with the same stitch, it means you're going correctly. Okay, so stitch marker was there, 3 half double crochets into a full stitch as usual. Mark your second stitch from the hook, 1, 2. Start with the same half double crochet into the same loop as everywhere before and after the corners, so into the back loop for me, and keep going with the pattern. So I'm gonna leave you with the very last marker yourself, so I'm pretty positive that you know what to do right now. So keep going and I will see you at the end of this row. So I am at the end of the row and I have 2 stitches left, so 1 and 2, and everybody will be finishing exactly the same always, okay? Always be the last 2 stitches. Okay, so the second last is always going to be a bottom loop half double crochet, and the very last stitch is just going to be a normal half double crochet in the normal stitch, no loops, just as you would usually do. Okay, and we are done with the first row of our pattern. Now to start the next row, it's exactly the same. Like I said, it will be always the same. You are going to chain 1 and turn. Make a half double crochet into the very first full stitch, so the very first, and then we start our pattern again. Always after your first full half double crochet, you're going to start, your next stitch is going to be a half double crochet into the bottom loop. Okay, so this is the back loop into the bottom loop, and then the back loop, and then the bottom loop, and back loop, and bottom loop. Make sure that you are not using any of the stitches twice, okay? Back loop, bottom loop. I have 2 stitches left before the stitch marker, so back loop, and this time I finish with a bottom loop just before the stitch marker. That means all my stitches after the corners that I make right after the first stitch and the one before each stitch marker will be into the bottom loop, okay? And these 2 rows are gonna keep changing. So one row you're gonna have a half double crochet into the back loop, then into the bottom loop, back loop, bottom, back, bottom, back, bottom, and you will keep going. They will keep changing every row until you get to your yoke length. So remember, I have the bottom loop right now, stitch marker out, 3 half double crochets into that stitch, a full stitch, 1, 2, and 3. Mark your second stitch from the hook, stitch 1, stitch 2, and then your next stitch is going to be the same, so bottom loop for me this time. So I'm gonna yarn over, go into the bottom loop and make my half double crochet, and then back loop and bottom loop, back, bottom, back, and bottom, and again you keep going until you get to your next stitch marker. And again, my last stitch before the stitch marker is in the bottom loop. Like I said, all of those stitches are going to be the same, and you can see the pattern is really starting to show now. It's really getting really soft. Okay, so stitch marker out, 3 half double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Stitch marker into the second stitch, 1, 2. Mark that and keep going with the pattern. So I start with the bottom loop, bottom, back, and keep going. I think this should be clear by now. Now, one thing that I want to show you, if at any point you're not sure if you're doing the right into the right loops, who knows what happened, you might have skipped a stitch or used the same stitch twice. Now I'm gonna show you how to figure out what stitch should be where. Okay, so you're gonna find, so you can see there are a few once you're looking at it, right? So there are a few half double crochets that are sticking out. Okay, so if you look at one of them, I'm just gonna put my hook under it. So this is pointing at me. Okay, it's sticking out to me. Now if you look, there's two stitches in both sides. There's one here and one here. So in the stitch right behind, before, to the right of the sticking out half double crochet, you will always make a into the bottom loop. Okay, that's how the pattern works. So if you have a half double crochet sticking out here, you're gonna have one in the bottom loop, and the stitch right a little kind of on the top to the left is going always to have a back loop half double crochet. So if you look, this is sticking out, this is bottom, this is back, and then I can see in the next half double crochet right here sticking out. So again, bottom loop right before it, and then back loop. So hopefully that makes sense. I promise you will get the hang of it. It just perhaps the sleeves are a little bit harder, but by the time we get to the sleeves, you will be very, very familiar with a stitch, and you will be very well able to see which loop you have to use where. So keep going for this row. I think this is very easy now, so keep going. I'll see you at the end of this row. So I have 2 stitches left again, so 1 and 2. Your second last stitch is always going to be into the bottom loop, and your very last one into the full stitch at the very, very end, like this. Okay, so at the moment we have made 3 rows, 2 rows with a pattern, and we have this half double crochet row at the very beginning. Now in row 4 we will do our first buttonhole. Buttonholes are very easy to make. You're going to chain 1 and turn, yarn over, make a half double crochet back into the very first stitch, so this one right here, half double crochet. You're gonna chain 1, you're gonna skip 1 stitch, so skip that one, and make a half double crochet into the full stitch into the next one. Okay, so half double crochet, chain 1, half double crochet, and you just skip 1 stitch and you have a buttonhole right here. Now after you make your buttonhole, you're gonna keep going with your pattern, and the next stitch that you need to do is bottom loop. So bottom, back loop, bottom loop, back loop, and keep going. And again, I'm gonna have a different loop before I finish at my stitch marker. So last stitch is my back loop again. So I had a back loop in this row, bottom loop in this, and then back loop again. They will keep changing until we're going to be making these corners. So stitch marker out, and 3 half double crochets, 1, 2, and 3. Mark stitch number 2, 1, 2, and again continue on, starting in the same loop as you have finished before the corner. So I have the back loop, so back, bottom, oops, back, bottom, and I think it is quite clear by now what we are doing right here. So keep going. Finish off this row, start the next one, and I'm gonna see you. So I'm gonna finish this, start the next one, and I will come back, and I just want to show you what we're going to do with the buttonhole right here. Okay, so I am right at the buttonhole. Let me show you. So I have approximately 4 stitches. Well, actually I do have 4 stitches left. So very last stitch, so this one right here, the chain 1, the stitch from this half double crochet, and 1 more stitch. So you should have, so when you have 4 stitches left, you're gonna do a back loop, half double crochet, then the next stitch, it kind of looks like it's already in the buttonhole, but that first one should be the back loop. Then you have 2 more stitches left. Okay, so this is the chain 1 right here and the very last stitch. So the second last is our bottom loop half double crochet. Now we don't exactly have a bottom loop right here to make it, so what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna go under the or into the chain 2 space, and I'm gonna catch that little loop right here at the corner. You see that? So just like into that and make a half double crochet. You don't have to do that, you can just leave a simple half double crochet in that chain 1 space, but it kind of matches my pattern a little bit better if I use that little loop underneath. And then the very last stitch is your simple half double crochet through both loops, and finished. Now talking about buttonholes, so the way I make my cardigans, where are they? So I make my buttonholes every 8 rows. So you can see my buttonhole is right here. I have 7 rows in between this buttonhole and this one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Row number 8 gets a buttonhole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Row number 8 gets a buttonhole. And they seem to be working out quite well for me. But you are gonna have to keep an eye on that yourselves. Now I will remind you once in a while about those buttonholes, but you need to make sure that you do know how many rows you have in between. So I have 1 row right now. I need to make another 6 rows, and then row number 7 I will have another button. Oh, yes, so 1, yes, 6 and 7. Technically. Now I will, like I said, I will remind you of that. That will be approximately at the time somewhere very close when we will be connecting our yoke, perhaps a row or 2 after that, depending on the size that you are making. But for now, you are just going to do the same thing. So turn, half double crochet into the first stitch, the second stitch is a bottom loop, half double crochet, and then back loop, and so on and so forth. So you keep doing that. Your yoke will get longer, it will get wider, you are going to get more and more stitches in there, and that is what we need. Now how long do we need to keep going, okay, with those corners and everything? Now we want this part, so from the kind of a top corner to the stitch marker, to measure approximately 1 centimeter short, 1 centimeter, perhaps a half centimeter short to this. So if making 6 to 9 months, and my yoke length, full length, should be approximately 11.5 centimeters, I will start measuring, and if I get to 10.5 or 11 centimeters, just a little bit short to this, I will stop, and the next row I will be connecting my yoke. Now why do we stop a little bit early? That is because when we will be connecting, we are going to have an extra half double crochet right here that will extend our length right here for approximately another centimeter. Now don't worry if you get a little bit over this measurement, it's no problem at all, but make sure that you actually reach it. Okay, so for now you just keep going. So you measure like this, and I will see you at approximately 10.5, 11 centimeters, somewhere around here, and then we will connect together. I will show this again for you, and perhaps it will be easier for you when you see me how I measure. Okay, so keep going for now. I will see you real soon. And I have finished my yoke. I am ready to connect it. Now I will show you again. So yoke right here for the size that I'm making is 11.5 centimeters. Now you want to be perhaps a little bit short to that at the moment when you are connecting it. So approximately 1 centimeter or a half of centimeter short. Okay, so it would be for me approximately 10.5, 11 centimeters. So you're gonna measure from top to your stitch marker. So if I measure, I am approximately just under 11 centimeters. So the next half double crochet that I make here when connecting is going to get me just over that 11.5 centimeters that I need for the yoke length. Now once you have that and you're absolutely sure that it is enough, we are going to measure the back of our hoodie to see how many chains we need to do underneath each armhole. Now you're gonna have to do at least one, okay, as a minimum as one, just so that we have somewhere to connect to start the sleeves from. Okay, so again, you're gonna measure from stitch marker to stitch marker. Let's have a look at the chest. So chest right here for the cardigan, for the size that I'm making, is 50 centimeters. Now that is all the way around the circumference. As we are only measuring the back part, we only need a half of this length. So I'm going to divide that into 2 and I get 25 centimeters. I'm not going to pull on it, I'm just going to lay it nice and flat. And I'll measure from one stitch marker to another, and I am at approximately 23.5 centimeters in length right here. So I am 1.5 centimeters short for the circumference. Okay, so I am short. That means I have to do some chains, most likely more than one. If you put your measuring tape where you can see your stitches at the bottom anywhere at all, you can have a look on how many stitches fit into that missing length. So I'm missing 1.5 centimeters, so right here, and I end up 2 stitches. Okay, so usually I would just chain 2 underneath each armhole and I would reach my circumference that I need for the chest. But for this pattern to keep on working the way it is, we need an odd number of stitches underneath each armhole. So 1, 3, 5, 7 is a little much. If you have 7, I would perhaps say that you should make an extra row. You will get a little bit long right here, but it's better for the yoke to be long rather than have a lot of chains underneath each armhole, because your sleeves are going to be really wide. Okay, so I have to decide either 1 or 3. So I should have 2, but I will rather go on to the bigger number of chains. So I'll do 3 then. 3 chains underneath each armhole. And before connecting, grab yourself one more stitch marker. That is gonna come in handy for us. Okay, so I'm ready to connect. One more thing, make sure that you do not need to do a buttonhole yet. So I need to finish this row, and in the next row I will do the buttonhole. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 rows now. Okay, I need 7 and then a buttonhole. I'm just reminding you. Okay, so wherever you have finished, just make your way down to the first stitch marker. Just keep making those the pattern, bottom loop, back loop, and again remember what kind of stitch you put into the stitch before your stitch markers. So I am doing a bottom loop half double crochet, then you will make a half double crochet into the stitch where the stitch marker is, a full 2 loops, your usual full stitch. Now we're going to put this down for a second. Don't turn or anything, grab that stitch marker and just put that stitch marker somewhere around the sleeve. That will help us out once we're doing the sleeves to know which way we're going, okay? And just leave that, forget about that for now. Now you have a half double crochet here, then you're going to chain the number of chains. So I have 3 chains, 1, 2, 3 chains. I'm going to find my next stitch marker. I'm going to make a half double crochet where the next stitch marker is, and then I will keep going making those half double crochets. I remember this was my bottom loop half double crochet, so I continue on from the next stitch with the bottom and back, and my pattern falls into places as it should be. Now keep going, crochet the back, and I'll see you at the next stitch marker. Crocheted my back again. Just before the stitch marker I have finished into the bottom loop. I'm gonna remember that. Half double crochet into the stitch marker and the stitch with the stitch marker. Then you make your chains the same number of chains as on the other side. So 1, 2, 3 chains for me. I am going to make a half double crochet into the next stitch marker and continue on with the pattern. Again, I remember what I had here, it was the bottom loop, so I will continue my pattern from there. So crochet to the end, start the next row. Our rows are starting and finishing exactly the same as before. The only difference from now on is that we do not have any corners left, okay? So it will just be one way and back and forth and back with the same pattern. No more thinking about corners or stitch markers. We're not gonna have any more of them. Okay, so finish off this row. I'm gonna finish off this row. Now I have a buttonhole. Perhaps I will show you just in case, just to remind you, okay? Okay, so half double crochet into the last stitch, and now I have 7 rows from this buttonhole. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So in row number 8 I get to make a buttonhole. So chain 1 and turn, full half double crochet into the very first stitch, chain 1, yarn over, skip 1 stitch, half double crochet into the next stitch, and then continue with the pattern starting with the bottom loop and keep going. I will see you at those chains that are under our sleeve. Okay, so I'm very close to the chains right here. I have 1 more stitch left. It's the bottom loop, and then we have our chains. Now I have chained 3, but if you look close it looks like I have 4 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Why is that? Now because half double crochets are kind of a funny looking stitches, they leave the stitch looking like a chain. One of the stitches actually looks like a chain right here. So we are going to make just half double crochets because we don't really have any loops right here, it's just chains. We will just make 1 half double crochet into each stitch or chain. So this is actually a stitch, and I will just make a half double crochet into this stitch like this, and then 1 half double crochet in every chain that you have, just like that. Now once we go past that, we are gonna have to see now which loop we have to start with. Now find your next stitch that is sticking out. So this one is kind of a sticking out right here, so I'm gonna count back from this one, okay? So I know that the stitch before, right before the stitch that is sticking out, it should be in the bottom loop right here. So the stitch before that is going to be in the back loop. So you just kind of count back what you need to start with. So I have a back loop, bottom loop, and I'm right back at the pattern. Now I'm gonna show you this the same thing one more time. Just crochet Just keep going through the back and I'll see you at the next armhole. Again, I am at my other chains. So again, I should have 3 chains, but it looks like I have 4. So this is a stitch, which looks like 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I just make 1 half double crochet into each of them. And now I need to continue with the pattern. So once again, I'm gonna find a half double crochet from previous row which is sticking out, which is that. And I know the stitch before that is in the bottom loop and the stitch before that is in the back loop. So again, you just count back like that. And you finish this row in your pattern. So I'll finish and I will come back to these half double crochets again. Now once you get to those half double crochets that were not taken into the pattern yet, they are just simple, they were not made into any loops, you just continue whatever you have to do. Now because we have made an odd number of chains, our pattern should work out perfectly. We just bring them into the pattern. And you should come out on the other side, so these were the half double crochets, perfectly in the same pattern. So it should match once you go past them. Okay, so you're gonna do exactly the same with the other half double crochets on this side. They should all work out perfectly for you. So keep going. Don't forget your buttonholes. I'm just gonna have to crochet over that just to again, remember how I did here if you need to have another look. Now, at this point, all we have to do is we need to crochet the length, okay? So I base the length of my hoodies or cardigans, whatever I make, on the sleeve length, okay? Let me show you. So sleeve length. You find the sleeve length for the size that you're making. So for me, 6 to 9 months is 17.5 centimeters. The sleeve length will be measured from the armhole right here, and it will be approximately 17.5 centimeters long. Okay, so the length of the cardigan is the same. I'm gonna measure from the armhole right here. I'm gonna go for 17.5 centimeters, approximately the same length as the sleeve, plus extra 2 rows. So you want the bottom of the cardigan to be perhaps like 2 rows longer than the actual sleeve is going to be. Just give me a second. Let me show you on this hoodie right here. So you can see this is the sleeve and this is the full length. If you put your sleeve next to the cardigan is a tiny little bit longer than the actual sleeve. Now you can go longer or shorter, completely what you want, but this is the way I do my length. So for me, it is, I will keep doing the pattern, measuring from here to approximately 17.5 centimeters. That would be the same length as the sleeve. And then once I reach approximately here somewhere, I will just make extra 2 rows to make it a little bit longer. Now, I'm gonna turn you off. Don't forget your buttonholes because it is very, very annoying. Once you forget them, then you have to take loads of rows out. Okay, so keep an eye on that. And I will see you when we have the length of the cardigan. And so I have finished crocheting the length of my cardigan. Now I'm not gonna go pulling on it. I'm just gonna flatten it out. And if I measure from the armhole down, it is approximately 19 centimeters in length. So approximately 1.5 centimeters longer than my sleeves are going to be. Okay, so once you finish, you are going to chain 1 and cut your yarn. And pull out. Now this is going to be the end of part 1. I will see you real soon in part 2 and we will finish this hoodie. We will do the hood, the sleeves, and all the finishing touches. So for now I am done. I will see you in part 2 really, really soon. So good luck and bye.